Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing? Of course, I'm Toddy, and I got some very special guests also checking in with me also tonight as well. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. And we're going to start right at the top with Mr. Armani. If you can give everybody your name and a nice introduction there.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Armani. I've been in the Atlanta Bird game, talking football for a while now. Probably since the group was invented and came out. So, hey, man, you can check me out at Atlanta Bird game. I've been there for a minute. Making posts, making videos. You can check me out there.
What's up? What's up? This is Steven with the check down. Been down with Toddy and the Atlanta Bird King because they keep it real. I appreciate it. I love the Falcons, native Atlantan, and I just got to have a win. I just got to have a win. When I say a win, I mean a Super Bowl. So anything, everything Falcons, I'm coming with it.
So everybody, Bryce. I've been on the show once before with Tidy. You know what I'm saying? Me and him got acquainted about a month ago. Love coming on. Love talking about Falcons. Love Atlanta sports in general. Where I'm from. Grew up loving like all the players and everybody from the history from when I started watching it, and trying to move forward, trying to hope we start building some winning teams, some and building some franchise history moving forward. So that way, maybe we'll get more Falcons fans, other fans of Atlanta sports jumping on board along the way.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Hey, it's Shawn J. I'm new on the show. This is my first time being on stage. Been following for a little bit. I love the content. I love the conversation. So thank you to Tidy for having me on. So you can find me on YouTube. I'm normally in my dungeon, watching tape and stuff like that, trying to put out a different perspective of the game or why and how things are happening. So you guys can find me on YouTube, man, but I'm happy to be up here. Appreciate it again, Tidy. Let's get it.
Let's get it. And a nice warm round of applause there for the panel. Yeah, so let's get straight to the business, guys. As everybody know, we all know why we joined forces here tonight. We had a big decision with the team that we love so much, the Atlanta Falcons. We kind of had a hint that was coming when it was announced that Arthur Smith would announce the starter during his press conference on Wednesday. And I think the time was around noon or around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He announced that Taylor Heinicke would be the starter going into the Minnesota game. So I want to go around the panel and just get everybody's thoughts on that initial decision to, for lack of better words, bench Desmond Ridder for this next game and start Taylor Heinicke. And we'll start from the bottom. Shawn J.
Man, for me, I really wasn't too surprised today. Like you said, Tidy, we kind of saw it coming. Even Sunday, when Ridder was cleared, he did have an opportunity to put him back in the game, and he decided not to. And then he had a night to sleep on it. Monday is when he came and said, I'll let you know Wednesday. So if he wasn't willing to commit Monday, that lets me know he wasn't going to do it Wednesday. I think he wanted to buy time to kind of talk with Desmond, to get him on board. Desmond he's a good guy, so he received it well, I assume, but he kind of needed time to go ahead and make the decision and talk with the vets to make sure everything was clear. So I don't think it was all Arthur Smith. I think it might have been above his head, Terry, maybe even Arthur, right? They're watching the games too. They're seeing these turnovers. So I think it's more of it was a committee making this decision, and that the concussion kind of gave him that window to go ahead and do it last game and then into this week. So I wasn't too surprised by it today.
Yep. And what about you, Bryce?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I wasn't really too surprised. I mean, he literally could have came out and said if Ridder's healthy, he's QB1, and he didn't. So that kind of told me everything I needed to know right there. And especially after seeing what Taylor did in the second half, basically almost getting him back fully for comeback. And it's hard to see that and then say, let's go back to the guy that we only had 87 total yards after in the first half and 3 points. And he's been turning the ball over as well the last few games as well. So it was just one of those things where I feel like he kind of had to make this move. You're 4-4, you're first in the division. You've been talking like this is the year to make the playoffs. If you go with Desmond and you lose the games, the next few games coming up, it kind of starts picking things shaky. Your job could be on the line. So I think overall this was probably the best move to make, because I mean, literally, if things don't work out, I guess you could go back to Desmond, but it's better to go ahead and try to show the team that you're trying to win than sticking with a guy who week by week you don't know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, been a lot of inconsistencies thus far with Ridder. What about your money?
Yeah, I mean, it was time. I said at the beginning of the season that if Arthur Smith and Terry, they want to, put their jobs on the line for Desmond Ridder, I mean, then they'll be out of here. Mm-hmm. And I think it came from up top. I don't think because the way that Arthur Smith was talking, it seems like he didn't even want to make the move. Yeah, I think it came from up top, like, okay, hey, look, we tried. We didn't give them a chance. We're at the bottom of the league in scoring. I think we went from 28th. Now we're actually trending up. We're 23rd because we finally got over 20 points last week when Heinicke came in, gave us 20 points. So, I mean, once you saw that spark, it was just you can't go back because you see the spark. You see that what the offense could be, with Heinicke in there. And Heinicke could very well not be the answer, but I think right now he just gives us the best chance to win right now and for this season until we can get a long-term solution at quarterback.
Yeah, well said. What about yourself, Steven?
I want to echo what Armani said. I really think it came from the top because when you look at Arthur Smith, I don't know, man. He just wiggles around too much. He says all of these different words, variables, concussion this, concussion that. And it's like, dude, just be frank, be straight. I mean, it just seems like I think he's gotten himself into a pickle, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so to answer your question, before I go there, I was a little surprised only because every indicator that I saw in Arthur Smith seemed like he was still being stubborn. The whole concussion thing. I mean, if the doctor's clear the quarterback to come back in and you're like, well, no, I don't trust that, and there was no, aggressive or vicious hit on him that I saw at least. It seems like he was just searching for excuse, almost like what we saw when we didn't see Bijan the previous week play a lot. And so I was kind of surprised a little bit. I think it was necessary. I'm glad it happened because, as Armani said, it was clear when Taylor Heinicke came in that he was a better quarterback. Our offense looked so much better. And, I mentioned this on something I did earlier yesterday. And it's, the responsible thing here, obviously, is to play Ridder and see who he is over a full season. But the problem with that is Arthur Smith took us into the season with no QB competition, without playing Ridder in the preseason, as if Ridder just showed something dramatic behind the scenes where the fans couldn't see, maybe where Arthur Blank couldn't see. And his name is on the line right now. And so it's a complex situation. So I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm glad that Heinicke is in there now.
Yeah, well said. And you touched on something just there, Stephen, that I want to ask you guys. When you mentioned that he came into this season and he seemed so sure of Ridder. That's what he told us fans. And also, as you mentioned, he only tried him out there for one series during the entire preseason. Like, okay, this guy's ready. He's solid. He's sold. And my question to y'all is, after just 8 games, now he's on the bench. Does anybody think that's any kind of way shows any kind of gross negligence on the head coach's part?
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's like, look, and I understand that you don't want to get a young kid hurt, in the preseason. You don't want to play him. But look, you got some of the veterans out there, especially when you see Pat Mahomes, who is back-to-back Super Bowl champion, back-to-back MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Hey, listen, you got to try them out there. I mean, you got to give him more time to develop, especially since you negated him into playing last year. You waited so long. So, I mean, honestly, you pushed back the learning curve for him. So, in a way, Arthur Smith he hurt him more than helped him in that area, because when you don't play, he went from playing He played four straight games last year, right? And then you go into the preseason and say, I'm not going to play him no games. It's kind of like, okay, well, you're so sold on him, but he hasn't proved anything. I can understand if Patrick Mahomes wants to sit on the bench. I can understand that Joe Burrow might want to sit down, but those guys are proven. Desmond Ridder has not proved nothing to the coach, to the coaching staff, and to the fan base. So a lot of it has to do with preparation. And Arthur Smith also just doesn't. He gets his own way. I think you said it on your live the other day, Ty, that he has an ego, kind of like a rich kid problem.
Oh yeah.
He has an ego. He thinks he know it all. He getting snarky with the media. He getting snarky with the fans. Listen, we just want to win. We just want to win. All in all, you can't get mad at us because you're making questionable decisions that we all can see. So when it comes, to put it into terms, you can't get mad at us because you're making some bad decisions or some questionable decisions that can ultimately lead you into getting up out of here if you didn't make this decision that you made this week. And I think the decision to go with Heinicke this week was to save face. I don't care what he says. Oh, he would do the variables or concussion. No, the doctor said he was clear last game to go in. So I'm not buying it. You're doing it to save face and you're doing it to save your job. And if that's what you're doing, I can understand that. Say that.
Yeah, and I'll follow back up off that point. I also think one thing he was trying to do, and I get it from a perspective of a coach, is sometimes when you bring a guy in, you want him to be confident and you want him to be secure. And I think he wanted that for Desmond before the season. That's why he said, no QB contest. You're the guy. You're getting reps. He felt like if I just tell him he's the guy, he gets all the reps, all the confidence in the world, the support. We had Arthur Blank coming out saying he could be the guy for years, that maybe that can help him. Because you never know. I guess you never know with guys. If you make it an open competition, if you give those cracks in that entire thing where somebody could say, oh, well, Heinicke played a little bit better. Or, oh, well, he's doing better. Then everybody's going to be like, Heinicke right before the season starts. And now is he going to be looking over his shoulder? How is that affecting him mentally on the field? Things like that. So I think he wanted to kill all that. But like you said, with him not playing those preseason snaps and him not going and playing more last year, I think you've kind of delayed his development. And then you're coming into a year like everybody has said, where you're trying to win. This is the same issue that the 49ers got into with Trey Lance. They're trying to win a Super Bowl and develop. Yeah. And if the quarterback doesn't develop fast enough, you're going to think he's no good. And it may not even be he's a bad player. It's just, well, we need you to be good now. And that's kind of where the league has shifted to, where that's the debate. Obviously, we expect quarterbacks to be Justin Herbert in the first game with over 300 yards, or else we think they're bums. Everybody gets different circumstances. But, I think for Desmond, I think just the circumstances and everything going up to it wasn't ideal for him. And, yeah, I could sit here and say, yeah, I've seen some improvements from him. But like we said, we've seen turnovers. We've seen inconsistent offense just in general as a whole offense. We all remember the moment with Mac Hollins earlier this season. I mean, those types of things you're seeing is just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like I gave him a fair opportunity, but I also realized at the same time we're getting into the second half of the season. You need to know, okay, this is the playoff run. This is the playoff push last stretch.
Right. I think with Arthur Smith, man, I think he has to be right. I think with everything that he does, I think he's always thinking that he's making the right decisions. And when it plays out and it goes the wrong way, you see him get testy in these press conferences after the game. He blows up like last year in the Saints game. You can tell he has rabbit ears. He hears everything. I think he knows everything that's going on, all the conversations that's going on social media. So when he gets up to that podium, it's like he's talking to everybody on Twitter. He's talking to everybody on Facebook, trying to deceive or trying to feed them information that he thinks that they should know. And if they don't know, it's because you don't understand or you haven't watched the tape. So he's a little bit complex. I think Steven said it earlier that he's in a pickle because he has to learn from last year. I think it was 8 games. We was 4-4 last year. Everybody was saying at that point, you got to put Ridder in. And he didn't. He waited an extra, 4 or 5 games, and that costed him. So now you're in that same position this year, and you're really Now you're getting flat for making the decision now because you're not keeping it with Ridder. He could put himself in the same position and get fired, like Monty said, by relying on Ridder. So he's kind of, in a hard spot here. And he's trying to save face because they did want to bank on Ridder. I think they wanted to go at least 1 or 2 years with Ridder. Mm-hmm. They at least wanted to try to get a couple years. So now 8 games in, they kind of trying to wiggle their way into getting Heinicke in there without looking like weasels or to look like they didn't know what they were doing all preseason and going into the year. Because now it looks like you didn't know what you were doing with the quarterback going all the way from last year up until now. So, yeah, I think Arthur is really trying to make himself look good in the media, but he knows in reality it's not playing out like that. That's why you see the frustration from him.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think Art is in a pickle. And I think that it looks like, and this may sound, harsh, I think his decision-making is catastrophic for the organization because we're really built to win right now. And so to go with an unproven quarterback this year, without any competition, without letting him play in the preseason, is ridiculous. And especially ridiculous to the fan that's a fanatic, I guess, like we are, who actually watched those 4 games last year and analyzed. Yeah, Desmond threw about 3 picks a game. That might be a little over exaggeration, but he's been throwing picks since he's been on the field in the NFL. And granted, some of the DBs dropped the balls. Maybe it was out of bounds a little bit, but he's been throwing the ball to the other team. And so I think Art's ego is getting in the way of his success. And I don't know if he has a really strong relationship with Desmond or what, but Desmond's, emotions or personal feelings, are secondary to how this team is going to perform. And so if Desmond needs, if we don't want to bench him or we don't want to do this because that may hurt his ego, I think we're in a different NFL now. I mean, because you see players come into this league at quarterback and they make noise right away. While Washington obviously has been losing, I don't think many people that'll say Sam Howell can't play. I mean, he's throwing the ball around in losing efforts. He took the Eagles to task both times that they played. And even Will Levis, we don't know what Will Levis is going to be, but he damn sure looked like he was a truth when he played us. And we have a very strong defense. And so, what you hear often about Arthur Blank and this organization is that we haven't hired a proven coach since Dan Reeves. And maybe it's that we need to take a hard look at what we're doing in the coaching position because we have all the tools. We got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Every narrative about us on sports broadcast television is we're not using Kyle Pitts the right way. What's going on with Bijan? Drake was the first receiver drafted, but he's way behind, the other receivers taking after him. What is that? I think it's coaching and leadership. And so I do think, however, that Heinicke could be the savior for the coach if he continues to play like he played last week because, he looks good. And someone put in the comments how Heinicke played against Matt Ryan. And, I mean, he beat us. I think he's beat us every time he's played us, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
He's good. He's good. And not to belabor the point, but so what if he's better than Ridder? If he's better than Ridder in training camp, he should be the starter. Period. Because I'm going to tell you something. Those season tickets and those PSLs aren't giving any discounts based on somebody's emotions or quarterback and how they feel. They want their money. Hey, those hot dog discounts aren't going to cut it.
At the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, everybody, even on Twitter, I'd be like, look, he's going to hurt Ridder's confidence. Listen, at the end of the day, this is a business. Right. This is a consumer to customer business. Yep. You have to put a winning product on the field if you want people to buy, and I always refer back to that because people think that, we don't want to hurt Ridder's. Pretty much, we don't want to hurt Ridder's feelings is what I'm hearing across the Twitter world. I'm just like, so what?
Yeah. It's just
So what?
daycare, you know?
I mean, and I just don't understand. And I get supporting the core. I get support any player that wore the Falcons uniform. But I mean, sometimes you have to take your fandom glasses off and then just look and see for what it is, and not be so subjective that you can't be objective and look at the game for what it is. I mean, I think that this fan base, we fall in love with players so fast without them even having to prove anything. We fall in love with these guys so much. And it's funny to me because it's only at the quarterback position. Yeah. And if you talk about the quarterback position, it is a very, very sensitive subject. Right. Fans don't want to talk about it. You cannot talk about the quarterback, or you're this or you're that. But at the end of the day, the quarterback is the most important position in North American sports. It's not even close. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, if you're not winning, you can have all the weapons in the world. You can have the best defense. In today's league, without a quarterback, it's not going to work.
Yeah, very well said. And I want to touch on, and we're going to get right back to this conversation with Heinicke, but I want to touch on something key that you mentioned when you spoke just a moment ago, Stephen. You said that we haven't hired a proven head coach since Dan Reeves. And one thing I want to say, and I want anybody's opinion on this, but Arthur Blank has never hired a proven head coach. Every single head coach he's hired since he's owned the Falcons, 20 plus years now, has been a rookie. Even both his general managers, first year general managers. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned leadership, Stephen. So I want to ask the panel, does that say anything subliminally about our owner and the type of leadership or lack thereof, maybe that he has? I want to get y'all opinion on that.
And I may think it's some recency bias in there with Arthur Smith, because if you look at the previous guys, right, Jim Mora Jr., he had success. We got, if you exclude Bobby Petrino, Mike Smith really made this team respectable, disciplined, right? He was a great coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in our franchise history, given his tenure and what he did. And then you got Dan Quinn. We know how it ended, but he did take us to a Super Bowl. So we saw success with those guys. The way it ended for a lot of them wasn't good. But with Arthur Smith, we haven't seen much success. And so that's kind of, making it look so, so large that we have so many first-time head coaches, because Arthur Smith has not, gained any success in the postseason or made the playoffs. But I think those other guys, you got to, give them credit. When they was here, it was a good time in the Georgia Dome with Jim Mora Jr., Mike Smith, and Dan Quinn. So you got to give those guys credit. But with Arthur Smith, he hasn't met what those guys have done yet.
Yeah, very well said.
The thing about Arthur Smith, though, is I think if he was just straight and he said what he meant and he meant what he said, I think people would still be, questioning some of the decisions that he's making. But when it looks like, you're being, tricky, it's like, dude, what the hell is going on? We're on your team, and you're lying about what's happening, the whole concussion and Bijan Robinson thing. And, we've only had two coaches to take us to the Super Bowl, and that may sound a little temperamental, but we've only had two coaches to take us. That was Dan Reeves and Dan Quinn. And so the whole thing with Jim Mora Jr. to me was kind of like the Vic show. I think if Dan Reeves continued to be the coach, I think we would have seen more discipline out of Mike Vick, honestly, and we probably would have had a better opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. People forget that in Vic's third year starting, we were a sneeze away from the Super Bowl. And that was under Jim Mora, but that wasn't too long after Dan Reeves left. And so, yeah, the leadership thing to me is significant, because leadership impacts everything underneath you. If it seems like the leader's not being honest, then the cornerback's not going to be honest. The water boy's not going to be honest. The trainer's not going to be honest because that's the culture of the organization. And so, yeah, I don't know why Arthur Blank is doing this. Arthur Blank clearly is a smart man being able to build an enterprise like Home Depot. But professional sports, specifically football, is a little more complex than looking at a P&L statement. You're talking about personalities of millionaires, their work ethic, and then coaches and so forth. It's very complex, and you have to make sure you get the right people. Some organizations can do it; they do it time and time again, and others just can't get it right. And so, I would prefer to see a proven veteran coach, but at the same time, does that say something about the amount of power that our ownership is willing to release?
Good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point for sure. And I think too, the thing about so one thing we can also look at with this current regime right now is, and I don't know where y'all put Terry and everything, because Terry was hired after Arthur Smith was here. So you can make an argument that's not his guy, because usually you want GM first, then head coach.
Yeah.
Usually. So there's been arguments of something happens to Smith, maybe Terry's safe, and then maybe you see how he does with another head coach. But I think overall with our coaches too, the only thing about the veteran coaches, I think the league has also changed where there are so many teams that are having success with first-time coaches because they want innovation. They want different. They want a different energy, a different style. The problem with coaches that have already been here sometimes, and you've seen it with the Ron Rivera's in them, it's just it worked then, but it's not working now. So it's almost like you need to make sure that like that coach is the real deal, not going off what he did in his past. And I think that's what makes it difficult to sometimes get the veteran coach that has coached on multiple teams before, because the ones that are good are probably still on their teams, and the ones that are at least their message, the way they operate, the way they coach may not be the same anymore. And so, like, Arthur Smith's an offensive guy. So if we let go Arthur Smith, usually teams, you may want to go defense. But then you're thinking, all right, we have Ryan Nielsen. I'm hearing people saying maybe we should promote him if that happens.
Yeah.
Just because he seems to have the defense right. And the thing about him is he's a very inexperienced coach. This is his first time being defensive coordinator. So from 1 year defensive coordinator to head coach would be a quick rise. And we don't know if he'll be able to handle that, because you don't want to put him in a position to not be successful either.
That's true.
So I think it's one of those things where I think one thing about Arthur Blank is I think he wants stability within the coaches. I mean, he gave Smith multiple years. Quinn was here for a while. Reeves was here for a while. He's not a guy who, at least through most organizations, where it's like 2-3 years out, usually. And I think that's something that usually is praised in today's NFL, because so many coaches sometimes get canned after a year. Josh McDaniels just got canned after a year and a half. So
again,
it's one of those things where it's like,
Again,
if it's just like, it's almost like you almost, when you're interviewing coaches, it's just like, you just want to see who is the best for this team and what your vision wants to be moving forward overall.
yeah, and Coach Smith, I think he made a video about. I think he called the fan base toxic. I believe, correct?
Toxic.
And that bothered me, because the nerve of this organization to tell the fans that they're toxic. Imagine if you run a Fortune 500 company and you go and tell, the media or any of your fellow execs that the customers are toxic. They don't know what they're talking about. You're not gonna get many things sold, right? So I mean, the things that the Falcons have put us through as fans, and the nerve of him to come out and call the fans toxic. Well, maybe we are a reflection of y'all. The customers are a reflection of the business.
Yep.
So if we toxic, what does that say about the organization? So, I just don't understand why he would call. We are the Atlanta Falcons. We have 0 Super Bowls, and the ones we did go to, I can understand. I mean, what happened. That in itself I mean, that in itself was like, I can't. It's an indescribable feeling. I don't want to never have that feeling ever again. I know that, because it's kind of like you toying, especially in on a big game in a big stage like that. You toy with the fan base just to have it slip from under us. It's kind of like when you tell a child to stop putting his hands on the stove and he keeps getting burned. So that's how I feel some fans are with the Falcons. We don't want to put our. I mean, we keep getting burned. We don't want to keep putting our hand on the stove. So you cannot say that the fan base is toxic when the organization as a whole has been toxic since for a while now.
Yeah, ring the bell for that. let me ask y'all this, and then I actually got a follow up statement, I guess I should say. Is there anybody on the panel that was in favor of keeping Ridder in as a starter going into this next game?
I was on the fence, honestly. I wanted Heinicke from an immediate gratification perspective. Like, man, you let the genie out of the bottle. Clearly, our offense is better. But on the other hand, I'm like, damn, we don't really, is this the year to see what Ridder is? Have we seen enough? Do we say, okay, we're going to give this guy a shot, a full 17 games, and then make a decision about going to get a quarterback next year, or maybe Ridder improves because Taylor Heinicke's not going to be the long-term answer? But that's all speculation, So I wasn't an emphatic hell yeah, even though I kind of felt that way emotionally, and I even said that, online. But after really, really, really thinking about it, it's like, okay, the genie's out of the bottle. Heinicke's playing. Yeah, we can go back to Ridder. But if Heinicke's playing well, I don't see us going back at all. So I was for it, but at the same time, I was like, damn, okay, did we give him enough time? I mean, he's leading the league in turnovers. I hate it. I talk crap about it, but at the same time, did we give him enough time? My short answer is yes. I want to win now. We got too many weapons. My thoughtful answer is the responsible thing to do is I bought this thing. I'm going to look at it fully to make sure it doesn't work before I put it on eBay and I see somebody else going to the Super Bowl with it.
I got a question though. What's the expectation of Ridder, right? If we say we want to give him more time, like what do you expect for him to look like after 17 games? Like what do you expect him to be? Like do you expect him to be able to get the turnovers, cut down, being able to read the defenses better? So you do expect him to be somebody that you can go into next year with, because you really have this year and next year to make a decision, because he'll go into that fourth year, as a third rounder. You have to pay him or not. So you really got a small window to figure out what he is. And with the trend, how things was going, it's kind of tough to say, hey, he's going to cut this out in 4 games. Like we said that 4 games ago.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's just the turnovers is the main thing, because I think that but for some of those turnovers, we probably would have won the games. Am I happy with the quarterback play, period, even without turnovers? No. But it's like, well, you know what? He's getting better. He's getting better. Like last year, we heard the narrative that he was getting better after those 4 games. And that was just a lie. He was not getting better. This year, I did actually start to see him get better. And then he started to continue to give the ball away to the other team. And so it's not an easy answer for me, which is why obviously I'm not the coach or the GM, because I'm indecisive too. But I would definitely play Heinicke. That would be my decision. But I'd be lying if I'd say it's like, okay, the responsible thing to do was to just watch this kid, give him 17 games, and if he's trash, he's trash. Are we going to the Super Bowl this year? Yes, no, I don't think so. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I believe this, right? And I'm gonna stand by it. When you draft a guy in the 3rd round, you don't just automatically expect for him to give him the keys to the franchise just like that. Especially when you come off of 7-9. What I think I think we went 4-12, 7-9. I mean, we've had 5 straight losing seasons.
Right.
So, and then you turn around and give a 3rd round pick and I know I'm gonna get Russell Wilson or
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana. I mean, if we looking at the numbers and the stats, and they give Tom Brady, he was a 7th round pick. That the exceptions do not make the rule, guys. That's not how it works. Those guys are anomalies. They beat up. I'm gonna put it like this: if the first round has a 77% success rate, and the second has like a 55% success rate, and then the third has a 20% success rate, he just not in the 20%. He's the anomaly. He's the exception. That's not the normal. I always bring it back to I'm pretty sure if a lot of y'all, if you had a parachute, one that was going to deploy 70% of the time, or one that was going to deploy 20% of the time, I'm pretty sure you're going to pick one that deployed 70% of the time.
70% of the time.
So, because and at the end of the day, you have to do what's best to keep your job, and you have to do what's in the best for the company, for the organization, for this football team, or fans are going to get disgruntled. We'll be sitting around having conversations like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one point. And it makes sense because the thing too about it is if you were just remember that year in general, that QB class, it was considered a weak QB class.
Yeah.
I mean, first quarterback taken was Kenny Pickett. I know people still have questions of Kenny Pickett's even a good quarterback.
Right.
So, and we know that was the same offseason with Deshaun and everything like that. And the quarterback position from that, especially when we traded Matt, has always just been in flux, especially. Mm. Even though we knew Matt was declining, it wasn't like you really had a better option, I guess. Because obviously we see how Deshaun's playing. So, and then you're tying up money. And then if we gave him that money, we probably wouldn't have Bates or Amiyamana right now. So this team may be in bad shape. So, it's one of those things where the Ridder situation I've always viewed as just very complex. Like we've seen, one of his biggest issues was Ridder was barely getting 200 yards when he first started playing. He barely could hit 200 yards passing, which you feel like is like a standard mark for a quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
The 3 games where he had all those turnovers, he hit 300, 300, 250. Drake London had a career high in receiving yards. Pitts caught a touchdown. That's where you saw the improvement. But then he got all those turnovers. And I said, the issue with that is now you're Jameis Winston. 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, but you got 3 picks.
Yeah.
That's not – you don't want that. You want him to cut him down, but you're also trying to win. And Arthur Smith knows I can't – there's no 500 anymore in the NFL since there's 17 games. You either have a winning record or you have a losing record. Mm. So I just feel like with the situation, you don't want to lose the guys in the locker room. You don't want to lose the confidence of the guys. Mm-hmm. And you always wonder when the defense knows we got to hold these guys to 17 points or we may not win this game. That's tough when the defense.
Right.
Knowing they have to or else it's over.
In today's NFL, in the pass first league NFL, that's hard.
Exactly. It's so tough to do that. Because then it's like once they hit 20, it's like, all right, well, I don't know if we're going to win this game now.
Yeah.
And if you know your offense can score, your defense can now be a little bit more aggressive because they know, okay, we can start to really pin our ears back. We can really start to fly around and make plays because we know we got a quarterback who can get the job done. So and I think with Ridder, it's like you're not even averaging 20 points a game.
Yeah.
You can't sustain that for an entire year if you're trying to make the playoffs, which they said they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think the fans need to understand, man, we always preach defense, especially back in the days. And then now it's like, the rules are catered for the quarterback and the offense just to go crazy nowadays. And also people don't understand the tempo is not on the defense. It's on the offense. So if your defense is winning time of possession, that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. Your defense is out there all the time because they don't control how fast the offense is going. They're reacting, So, I just think that fans don't understand how, the defense, even in college football, I think, Shannon Sharp said it best. I don't care how good your defense is. If it's out there for 99 plays, they gonna will.
Yeah.
So Hey, that's the Hall of Famer said that. So, and it's true. The defense they're not built to be out there like that.
So we saw that in the Super Bowl. I think our defense played the most snaps in Super Bowl history.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, because we couldn't after the first half, we couldn't you have to be able to sustain drives.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you put up 3 points, you're still sustaining a drive, running the clock out, kicking a field goal, and you out of there. So you're giving your defense time to rest. And when your defense gets time to rest, then it's like, okay, we good now. But if it's like, you go 3 and out, man, we just got off the field.
Right.
Now we back out there. This ain't basketball, guys. I mean, they got equipment on and all this other stuff. So, it's just it's different. It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to ask you guys this, because it seems like we are in agreement that we didn't want to see Ridder come out next game. So
yeah,
I want to ask everybody this.
To be clear,
when you watch Ridder play, like, what's your scouting report for him that makes you come to that decision of we got to sit this guy down? I'm going to start with Shawn and also Bryce, because I know you guys watch a shitload of film. So I'm going to start with you two, since you guys are the film experts. Like, tell us, when y'all sitting there watching that film, give us your honest analysis of your quarterback when you watching him.
You can go first, Bryce.
All right. I mean, the biggest thing for me with him is that we know that his pocket awareness is lacking. He doesn't move around the pocket smoothly. It feels like when something is happening, he kind of just stops for a second, and then it just looks kind of janky, and it just doesn't end up working. Where I think in the Heinicke, you can see he was more shifty.
Yeah.
And then the time you saw, which helped him be able to avoid some pressure. I mean, obviously, I didn't have a great game last game, but you were able to see some stuff. Passing wise, I still feel like he stares down. And the thing about it is, like, they always talk about eye manipulation. If you can get the defender to look at your eyes and then you go to where you want to go, that's how you can keep that from happening. But I felt like he would see something and just go to it, and it's like it was never there. And I don't know if he's just like, oh, let me throw it up and see if he can make the catch. I don't know. But I think that's why he's had the turnovers. If you think about a lot of his turnovers, they've came on short routes. Yeah. He hasn't had a lot of down the field, middle of the field interceptions. It's the short ones, because they always look every game they're about to get picked, because teams know he's going to go there, because he doesn't look it off. He doesn't try to go somewhere else, so they know they can jump those routes. And so I think it's like he's started to see the field better, but he's still making those same mistakes. I feel like the best game we all can agree he's had was the Houston game, where it seemed like eye manipulation was great. He was actually throwing the ball a lot in the intermediate range. It seemed like it was all right. He seems like he's looking at things really, really well. But outside of that, and I mean, even in the games after that where he threw for 300 yards, you saw those improvements, but he still had those moments of just you're staring the guy down. You're throwing these fades to Drake London, and they're like inside instead of outside. So now the defender has a chance to make a play on it. And it's just, we've all also seen the ball placement too. His ball placement is very erratic at times. So even though luckily we have receivers who are just big and have big catch radiuses, but it's not like he's putting it on them accurately either. So I think overall, from what I've just seen, is that he hasn't improved in that, and that's where his turnovers are coming, and then that's where the issue is going to come. And it's just, those are things you have to be able to do. You have to be able to protect the ball. You have to be able to read the defense better, because, I feel like if you don't, you're going to lead to those mistakes, and that's going to end up, costing you. And before I send it off to Shawn, I also asked this question too, not to change the topic, but just to, I also feel like some of Arthur Smith's play calling, the way maybe the reason why he's called the games the way he has is because he knows this about Ridder. Maybe that's why he calls these trick plays and he does these weird play calls, because it may be a reflection of how he feels about Ridder. And that's why, because Taylor Heinicke, I felt like he just called down the field, boom, 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 boom. No, it's just simple. Ridder feels like he's thinking too much. I always said, you cut to him on the sideline, he's always like, hope this works.
Got a hand on his little.
Hey man, but real quick on Ridder for me, I just think what I see, man, I just think he lacks confidence. So when he goes out for a play, whatever the play design is, if the coach says, hey, they're going to be in the cover 3, you should have this inside guy open here. That's exactly where he's going to look. And I don't think he has any other processors after that. I think he's going to go from like a high probability on the 1. I know Kyle Shanahan said it like years ago. Y'all, your play is designed to go to your number 1. If you can hit your number 1 every time, that's where it's designed to go. You don't have to read 2, 3, and 4. But in a lot of cases, defenses are going to play you to make you go to 2, 3, and 4. And with Ridder, it's really he's going to try to make that number 1 happen because when the play was called, he envisioned it in his head. This is how he read it in the book, how it's supposed to go. And when you read in the book and you actually play it out on the field, it's not going to happen that way. And I think he kind of panics when it doesn't. And you can kind of see that when he throws the interceptions on the short routes, it's because he didn't actually think that they were going to actually guard it because, when he read it in the book, the playbook, the guy wasn't supposed to be there, and he actually popped up and was there. So we see a lot of turnovers on short routes like that because I don't think he actually, prepares for the defense preparing for him as well. So that's with Arthur Smith, and you talk about play calling. Like if you're calling plays on Madden for Ridder, you're Arthur Smith, right? Put yourself in that position. You're not gonna call a bunch of deep passes. You're not gonna call a bunch of post and out routes and stuff like that. You're gonna be safe because you understand the limitations of Ridder. So his coaches that are with him every day, I think they see it as well. And that's tough on a play caller because you see with Arthur Smith, as he opened it up and the passing yards started to rise, the turnovers did as well. So you kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. So if you open it up, you're going to open up the Pandora's box of more turnovers. If you try to, rein them in and, strap them down a little bit, you're going to have 15 yards passing or whatever we had the first game. So something like that. So he's getting killed if he has a game like the Panthers where we do win by 2 touchdowns. He's getting questioned about his quarterback. And then when he does open it up for him, you see the turnovers happening now. Your play calling. So one thing about play calling, like if we do call different plays, I kind of ask like, what would we call? And also, do we also think about the defense countering that? We can say we can just call a different play where the defenses can play it differently. And if we call something different, can the quarterback actually execute that? So that's kind of questions for Arthur Smith as well. So we want him to do different things with Desmond Ridder, but can they actually execute that when we've shown that we can't execute some of the simpler things? So it's a tough spot there.
And let me ask you too this also. Do you guys feel like Ridder has a lot of intangibles, or no, intangibles isn't the right word. Do y'all feel like he lacks the talent and skill set to actually be an effective NFL quarterback that could possibly one day win a Super Bowl? And I know it's a short sample size.
Yeah, based on what we see now, yeah, it does look like he has no business being out there.
Yeah.
And what happens though is, and I'll admit, I've been conditioned by Arthur Smith's decision to not trust what I'm seeing on the field and assume that whatever he saw, during OTAs and during the offseason and not going after Lamar Jackson or any other quarterback in the draft, there's got to be something. But the truth of the matter is, I think it always goes back to Art Smith. The fact that I'm like, yeah, he needed to put in Heinicke, but should we give him a full year? That's my psyche thinking, well, damn, you made some very, significant decisions about Desmond Ridder being our starter that just isn't adding up. There's got to be something. And unfortunately, it seems like it isn't, because Taylor Heinicke looked head and shoulders just way better than Desmond Ridder did. And, I found myself sounding like the people that I criticize sometimes. Well, he's looking better, give him more time, because I've been conditioned to think there's no damn way that we didn't draft a quarterback that we named him as the starter, that we didn't let him play during preseason, and he's this? That can't be the case.
Yeah, to echo the sentiments, man, the talent is just not there. I don't see it. I don't see it, and you can see it. Honestly, it showed itself this past Sunday because I seen how Will Levis played, and everybody wanted to blame Arthur Smith's play calling. We questioned Arthur Smith's coaching in like late games when Matt Ryan was here, but his play calling was not terrible his first year.
Yeah.
Not like this, because he didn't have to dumb down the playbook. Right now, the game is too fast for Ridder. It's too fast for him. He can't process fast enough. And that's okay. But we don't have time to sit around and wait. I mean, everybody says wait. Well, I mean, we've been waiting. It's been 50-something years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like
60-something.
60-something years. So, I mean, how long are we going to keep waiting? It's always, why are we the one that's always waiting instead of they going out and being aggressive and getting somebody that can do the job? I'm not going to wait for, listen, if you're an employee and listen, that you get a certain amount of time. And if you ain't cutting the mustard at your job, you up out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing personal. It's just business. So we don't have time to wait. To me, we don't have time to wait. And the game right now is just too fast for Ridder. Right now, unless he does some major improvement in practice and get with a quarterback's coach that can give him the advice and the tools he need to be successful, it's not going to work. Because the talent, just raw talent, is not there.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with everything y'all just said. I don't see that talent level there either. From what I'm seeing, I just see probably a high level backup. You know, if your starter does go down, he could come in and give you some good games. I'm just not seeing it. I do want to ask y'all this. All right, with Taylor coming in, I don't think many in his fan base, outside of maybe Taylor Heinicke's friends and family and associates, think that that's the long-term solution in Atlanta. You know, I didn't ask y'all that because I don't think nobody on the panel thinks that. With that said, you can never predict the future, but I don't see Ridder starting for this team next year either. So what I want to ask y'all is hitting the fast forward button a little bit. 2021, the first round, you take Kyle. 2022, you take Drake. 2023, you take Bijan. In 2024, is it time for this franchise to say, listen, we built it up. We're going to still have a lot of money and flexibility. Is it time to go get that quarterback, even if you got to mortgage something and move up? Is it that time yet?
I believe so, Tidy. I mean, people always, and I don't get this about this fan base neither. It ain't our money. I mean, I get it, but I'm like, you cannot get something for nothing. You're gonna have to pay somewhere, somehow, and give up something to get something. So to me, if you know Ridder isn't the guy, and Taylor Heinicke, we know he's just a bridge quarterback. I mean, I like Heinicke. He went to ODU down here and not far from me. Great fan base, but the thing is, he's not going to be a long-term solution. So it's time. You've kicked the can down the street so far. Now you got to run to catch it to go get it. So in my personal opinion, trade, especially if you get a second-round pick due to Calvin Ridley, I would trade up in the draft and get your quarterback, whether it be in Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake May. This is the year good quarterbacks are coming out into the draft, and this will be the year that you need to go get one because, again, like you said, Tidy, you're going to have money to spend in free agency. You can build the rest of the team around in free agency, and now is the time to go and get your quarterback to merge with this great team that we got, this defense that we got.
Yeah.
Mine's is kind of a two-part thing. First question is, do we think Arthur Smith can develop? Because I've asked this question. I said, if let's say we make the playoffs. Let's say we make the playoffs with Heinicke, right? But they're still gonna get a quarterback next year. Are we okay going with a rookie next year? Because even if we got Caleb, even if we got Drake, listen, there's no guarantee they're going to be good out the gate. There's just you don't know.
Right.
Are we okay waiting? Are we okay with them having bad games? I mean, look at Bryce Young. He was the first pick of the draft. I mean, he wasn't that good to start the season. Now he's average. So he's made improvement, but he's still not. And obviously the Panthers don't have the roster we have. And I get that. But that may be what could happen. It's just you don't know with rookies. You all you could do is just put them in the best position you can and hope they can take that. Because they might be CJ Stroud. But then the second part is if you didn't want to go the rookie route, what veterans out there? We've heard Kyler Murray. We've heard Justin Fields. We've heard Ryan Tannehill, which I don't want. We've heard just other names because there's no like franchise QB type out there that you really are just like that's going to be available. You may even hear Trey Lance again. Shoot, you might even hear Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. I mean, but none of those guys I think move us where it's like, oh, if we get him, we're set. Probably the closest quarterback to that is maybe Kyler, and that just depends on what Kyler we're getting.
Yeah,
but even that, like I said, there's no certainties there, and I think that it's one of those things where if you mortgage your future, it's like it has to work, or else we're right back in the 49ers situation with Trey Lance, and it's like the quarterback's just not ready, or he's not at that point yet, and the team has to carry him.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick. I know I've been jumping in, but you make an excellent point. The issue that we have as a Falcons, as a franchise, is it seems like we have all of the pieces right now, and there's a timer on that turkey. You know, Kyle Pitts it's going to be time to pay Kyle Pitts soon. Same with Drake London before you know it. And so if we are cycling quarterbacks, let's say we go out and get a quote unquote top pick quarterback, but he needs 2 years to really be who he is. Are we going to be able to afford to keep these pieces together? And so ideally, if we could find a true veteran quarterback that could take advantage of these pieces and win now, because I believe we're a win now team right now. I mean, we have too many talented players. I know some of our players are rookies, but that's really when you want to take advantage of the situation when you don't have to pay them. Because if all of our draft picks that we've had over the last 3-4 years turn out to be who we hope they are, I don't know if we can afford to pay all of them and keep a good defense and have a franchise quarterback. I know it's not our money, but at the same time, it's like, okay, people are really clowning Kyle Pitts a little bit now because he's supposed to be the unicorn. Okay. Is it Kyle Pitts? Is it us? Is it a little bit of both? What about Drake London? What about Bijan Robinson? We need somebody, I think, who could win. Now, I'd love to go get a great quarterback. But to your point, are we going to get a great quarterback? I mean, Bryce Young was the guy. You know, he was the guy. But at the same time, he needs time. And I think Bryce Young may still be good, but it might take him a little time, maybe another year, to be that guy. And that's the pickle we're in, unfortunately. We're ready to win right now. And so if Taylor Heinicke, let's say if we think if our Falcons are as good as we think they are emotionally, okay, and we go deep in the playoffs and lose a heartbreaker on a bad call or, you know, a bad penalty or drop pass, and it's like, damn, we're better than that team. Are we really going to be ready to move on? Logically, we should say, yes, Taylor Heinicke, he's not the guy. But when you go deep in the playoffs, you want to throw it all away for an unproven rookie, it's going to be tough. And that's not to say we're not going to get a quarterback, but it'll just take time. Maybe you go draft a quarterback, you let him sit a year, if that's the case. But if that's not the case, obviously you bring one in, you let him play. It's just that we don't want to be on that quarterback carousel after having, say, a Matt Ryan for 14 years. I think we're taking our lumps now. We were kind of spoiled. And I know that may seem crazy. I'm not saying Matt Ryan, did everything for this franchise, but I think that he brought us stability, at that role. And we were really consistent, whether we were consistently great or consistently not great at the very end, we really didn't have to worry about that. Right now, we're on match. We're on the NFL match, going on dates, trying to figure out who we're going to marry, metaphorically speaking. But anyway.
Yeah, man, I think it's tough to say we're going to draft a quarterback next year because, like you said, mortgaging draft picks, you're speeding up that timeline for, like Bryce was saying, somebody that may take a couple of years. You can be in the Panthers position. They hired a retread coach, right? So they hired a coach that was a retread that was fired last year, traded up for the number 1 draft pick, and now they're 1-6 without a first-round draft pick next year to help out Bryce Young. So they'd have been in position to get a Marvin Harrison, somebody like that next year, but now they're shit out of luck, for bad words. But we don't want to be in that position. And with this team, like you say, Calais Campbell, we got a lot of 1-year guys on our defense. And, with Kyle Pitts and Drake London coming up, if they continue to look like they are, one of those guys won't be here. So this team is going to look different in 2 to 3 years if we continue on this track and we're not able to stabilize that quarterback position. So I think, man, we're in a tough position. That's why they were banking on Desmond Ridder, and now they're kind of fumbling with Heinicke because they don't really know what they're going to go into next year because you got Desmond Ridder still under contract, so that's still going to be in the background to where he's going to be on the team unless you just release him. He's going to have a couple years left on his contract, so you keep Dez and sign a younger guy, and then you have Dez and a younger guy as your quarterback room, and Taylor is gone. Like, how's that going to work? Or do you get a more veteran guy, bring him in, and just say, hey, Dez, you're going to be the backup next year regardless. So it's going to be a big decision next year.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, and I get it, you don't want to mortgage the future, but you won't have to go one of these ways. You're going to have to go the veteran way, or you're going to have to go the rookie way. You're going to have to give up, again, you're going to have to give up something to get something. I mean, you're going to have to do something. I mean, I get it. You want to keep as many draft picks as you can get, but something got to give.
Now, we want that cake and to eat it too. Now, we're talking about playoffs, a long run, we want that playoff feeling, but then we want Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Michael Penix, Jr. So it's those two are kind of like in separate zones there. So we're trying to bring them together. That's going to be tough because we do feel like we got a playoff team. And then if we're drafting in the 20s, that's going to cost you. That's going to cost you to get in that top 10. So, but like I say, if it's worth it, you got to make it because Julio, it ended up working out for us. But those trades are few and far between to where it actually works out that way for that top quarterback.
Yeah, and I want to point out something from Arthur Smith's press conference, and y'all tell me what y'all thought. He kept, and I'm paraphrasing, but he kept saying that this is a short-term decision. And when questioned further, y'all know how he like to do. He just gonna dance around the question until he give you a smart ass answer until you go to a different question. But he kept just saying this was smart, a short term decision, and they reevaluated after the Vikings game. Like, what is he saying, y'all? What is he saying without saying? That's my question.
There you go.
Oh, my fault. Arthur Smith, man, he don't want to back himself into a corner. I think he's holding off hope that maybe if Heinicke don't work out, then I can just stick Ridder back in there. It's like he don't want to just come out and be like, look, he's going to start for the rest of the season because of the unsureness of how he thinks that Heinicke might play, just in case he has to stick Desmond Ridder back in there, but. I think he's holding out hope. It's a little chamber inside his heart, and it's all hope. He's holding out hope that that's why he doesn't want to say too much and he don't want to say too little. And I get it, but it's like you can be honest about it too. You don't have to. We can read between the lines. You know, we're all smart guys here. We know that Heinicke is probably going to be the starter for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more than likely. And I think he just said that as it's not like you say he don't want to say, yeah, we gave up on him. He's like, he really does not want to say that.
Yeah.
Does not want to say publicly we gave up on him. So I'm not saying he wants Heinicke to struggle, but I mean, realistically, the thing about Heinicke is like, you know, he's kind of Brett Favre when he plays, which means he's going to have turnovers. He's going to piss us off. Like, I mean, that's just his game, but he also going to make them plays that are like, wow, we didn't have that before.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how he does, I mean, if Heinicke comes out and has a terrible game, then Arthur Smith can be like, well, he didn't do any better, so I have a reason to go back to Ridder.
Yeah.
But if he plays well, then it's like, well, I guess we got to keep riding our hand. It's almost like I said this before on my show. I said it kind of reminds me of like, y'all remember the Tua Ryan Fitzpatrick situation?
Yeah.
When Tua randomly started, but Fitzpatrick was closing games,
right?
And then he would go back to Tua the next week. It was like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do this.
You don't want to play music.
Taylor do it. Exactly. You don't want to have Taylor do it, and then you low key trying to get Ridder back in there, and it's like, well, why? Clearly, right now, Taylor's the guy. Like he's the best player to start at quarterback for the team. Just ride that, support it, embrace it, and let's just see what happens. No reason to make this a question. No reason, because now you're making it harder for yourself. Now next week, that way you acting, we're gonna have to ask you again. So is Heinicke gonna start after next week?
Right. You got to go through this again.
Yeah. Exactly. It's in his best interest to start Heinicke. It's in Arthur Smith's best interest for Heinicke to be successful because that's his insurance policy. Well, we thought Ridder was going to be this, but just in case, we got Heinicke. If Heinicke screws up and Ridder screws up, it clearly looks like Arthur Smith not giving us a chance to see Ridder in preseason, not having competition. It makes Arthur Smith look like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
He don't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Woodside coming.
I forgot about Logan Woodside.
Man, like I said it on Twitter, man, that you really got to watch the Pat McAfee show to really get an understanding of who Arthur Smith is. For some reason, he treats our local media like trash. He's really testy with them. But with Pat McAfee, McAfee knows how to, he asks the same questions, but he asks it in a way to where Arthur's opening up and he's going to give him a little bit more information. So you got to watch the Pat McAfee show. Maybe he tells us, you know, what the rest of the year, why he made the decision. Because Pat normally asks him directly about Ridder, and he kind of gives a little bit more detail when he talks to Pat. So you got to try to see if he's going to be on there tomorrow or Friday or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me ask y'all this: the Bijan thing with the headache and the Ridder thing with the concussion, were they pulling our leg? Like,
yeah, of course. It's a tight.
I gotta ask.
Come on. I mean, Bijan, and if he had a headache, just sit him out. Don't just play with him. Hey, suit up. I'm gonna get you in for one play. What sense does that make?
Right.
And then with Ridder, it's like, oh, he got a concussion. Stop it. So we know because we see he's fine. He's on. Well, you know, judging from a fan on the TV, he's just sitting there on the sideline. He's smiling. He encourages a couple for his teammates. The doctor cleared him. I don't know why you have to put on a facade like he's not okay. Those guys were okay. I'm not sure about Bijan. If Bijan wasn't okay, then he really should have been playing because, I mean, that's your top 10 draft pick. And if something would have happened to Bijan, we would have been like, this guy. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, Arthur Smith, you're not slick, man. We can read, but we can read between the lines. We can see right through it, you know.
And that's the leadership and experience we're talking about. Arthur Smith, not the players, you know, not T.O., not Brown down in Tampa Bay quitting during the game. our damn coach is bringing unnecessary drama to our team. It's like, well, is Bijan, is he hurt? Is he hurt or not? Is he sick? Well, what's going on? Is the NFL investigating the concussion? Well, the doctor said he's okay, but we're not going to put him back in. The coach thinks that, he's not okay. But in the press conference, he says, I'm not a medical professional. Dude, what are you talking about? What is that?
Talking about politics and world,
world climate control.
Stuff like that.
It just looks like the more he talks, the clearer it is. He doesn't know what he's doing. Just be quiet, man. Short answers.
He need a publicist, Hey, look, don't say this. Come on, man.
Especially with us struggling to get the PSL. So, all right, I want to ask y'all this before we go into the trade deadline here. Armani, you kind of touched on this already, and I'm asking y'all this because I already expressed my opinions on it a few times, and I really want to hear a different opinion. So, the quarterback position is like no other position in American sports, especially here in 2023. It's very compelling. It's polarizing. It's just the position that's going to draw a lot of attention, a lot of media, a lot of criticism. A lot of anger, a lot of love, or any other words, adjectives you want to use there. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a Falcons fan because I'm a Falcons fan. I'm ingrained in this fan base. Every day of the week, pretty much for the most part. So my question to you guys is, with that said, why does this fan base have such a, for lack of better words or terms, civil war when it comes to our quarterbacks? We can go all the way from the Mike Vick era to the Matt Ryan era and the Desmond Ridder era. Even now with the Ridder thing, with Ridder being benched, it's still this big divide. It's like some people like some people are saying, we get to see Taylor playing. And then you got some people who are just disappointed. No, Desmond was our guy. That was my guy. Like, why do y'all think our fan base in particular, and I only can speak for Falcons because I'm a Falcons fan. I don't have a second team. But why is this such a emotional divide and such a topic constantly within this fan base?
I would say this, Toddy, and I've said it a few minutes ago. They fall in love with him. Listen, I'm a youngster, so I might have been 5 years old when Michael Vick got drafted here. I might have been 6. And I love Vick, but at the end of the day, his decisions got him to where he ended up, and he came back strong. But at the end of the day, I understood that, okay, it's time to move on. Fans don't like to. Our fans, for some reason, our fandom glasses is so big and so wide. He can't do no wrong. You can't talk about the quarterback, or it's a sin in the fan base. So, and we're also not used to winning. We're not really a winning franchise. We're an average to below average franchise. So, I think fans just want to hang on, hope that those guys end up bringing us a championship. They want them to be the guy so bad. And a lot of that does have to do with winning, and a lot of it has to do with they just don't want to let go. It's like, they just don't want to let go. They keep hanging on, and clearly you see the rope pulling away, but you just keep hanging on, and it's burning your hand. It's taking your skin off your hand that it's burning so hard. So a lot of it has to do with that. Their fandom blinds them of what reality truly is, and they fall in love with the player instead of doing what's best for the logo.
Well said.
A lot of times it's just hard to admit when you're wrong, right? Because we invest in players. We want them to do well. We envision them, holding up the Super Bowl trophy for our team. We we want to be so right about that, and then when it's obvious that it's not going to go that way, it takes some people longer than others to let go of what they initially thought was going to happen. But that's how you kind of get that divide with Ridder. And you saw it late with Matt Ryan, where it really started to, when Matt Ryan started to decline, you started to see a divide there. So I think people really just have a tough time kind of coming to grips with reality based on what they thought was going to happen at first with the quarterback. So that's how I feel.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead. My bad. No, you go ahead.
I got you. I mean, for me, I think it's one of those things where everybody, like I said, wants to be right. You know, we talk about all the time in just the game in general. Like everybody wants to be able to call someone being bad or good before anybody else can. And that's what happened with Matt. Matt threw a touchdown his first throw as rookie with us. And he led us to 11-5 season, but people were still against him, even after a winning season in the playoffs. Coming into this season, I think sometimes the fan base, I think the issue is because we don't have that same history like the Cowboys and 49ers do. We have championships and everything, and everybody wants that.
Yeah.
They want us to be in those conversations. They want us to get those championships. So the problem is we got people coming into the season basically saying, if we don't win a Super Bowl, this season's pointless. When we haven't even had a winning season since 2017 or 2016, one of the 2 years. And, you know, if you think about the process, it's like, well, if we have a winning season, then at least tells me, all right, we have a good team. Next year, I expect us to have a good team. I can come into the season more confident in my team. But people don't want that. They don't want that. They want to know either we Super Bowl or we bad. You know, there's no in between for a lot of people, you know? And so I just think, you know, that lack of patience is there. Because even if we draft Drake May, there's going to be people who are against him. Draft Caleb Williams, people are going to be against him. The only person that maybe seems like everybody's on board with is Shador, and he's not maybe even coming out next year. And that's just because of the Sanders connection to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like the thing is that one thing about this regime that I've said is they are patient. They develop, they believe in their coaching. They are not going to just rush something and then potentially ruin the franchise, because they're going to look at when Dan Quinn and them ended, the franchise was not in good state. Cap room was ruined. You locked up money in players that were at past their prime. And they're like, we're not going to do that. But then the problem is people are still impatient. They want us to make that move. They want us to go ahead and push forward. I remember last trade deadline, people wanted us to trade a first, second round pick for somebody. I can't remember what exactly who. They want us to already start trading stuff. And I'm like, we're not even a good team yet. Why are we trading like we are a player away? And I think that mindset now evolving to the quarterback position is why it's always so split. I think Vic overall is the most, like I said, popular guy. Like, you know, if you really, like, you know, okay, he wasn't the overall best quarterback, but he was electrifying, you know, united the city. But Matt, he played the game in the prototypical way. And then we can get into the, you know, he's white, whatever. And then the city, you know, has a lot of, you know, African-Americans in there. So like that connection is, you know, whatever. We can get into that if we want. But, you know, overall, I just think whoever we draft, people are just going to always have doubts. People are always going to be like, no, he's good. He's going to be bad. I don't like him. I don't think he's that good. And that's just always going to keep that divide in the family, even with Desmond, you know, because it's like you got people who are defending him, like, no, blah, blah, blah. And you got some who are like, no, like, get him out of here. But that's why I asked that question, like I asked earlier, do we want another rookie? Because all we're going to do is divide the fan base. Because it's like, is he not? If you ain't a fan, you ain't going to support him regardless of what he does.
Yeah, I think when you think about the city of Atlanta, and I'm old enough to, you know, I was grown in 1996. Atlanta has become a quote unquote championship city, and I'm not talking about sports. I'm talking about the international appeal, all of the companies here, everybody wanting to move here, and you have specifically a lot of local Atlantans like myself who become emotionally attached to wanting to have a winning franchise attached to the city. I think it's really an emotional play. while we love the Falcons quite often, and this is what we've said already tonight, I understand, fans will attach a personality to the team as if they're inseparable, as opposed to looking objectively at, well, can Ridder really play? Is Matt Ryan, really that good? Or Matt Ryan is great? Or Vic didn't deserve this? It becomes an emotional attachment for conversation and debate and argument. And people enjoy doing that. Plenty of people are tuning in right now to listen to us talk about, the decision that our coach made. And so I think it's an emotional pull. I think that certainly natives are really emotionally invested in, we need to win. And if we see a spark of this is the guy, we go with it, specifically at the quarterback position, because you're right. You can have a nonstop debate about Matt Ryan or Michael Vick that'll never end.
It'll never end.
It'll never end. You'll hear people say, and I've been on both sides of it. The Matt Ryan thing was a PR play. He had to work after the Vic debacle. If you look at his stats, he wasn't that good early. We were patient with Matt Ryan because he had to work. And other people will say, well, man, Matt Ryan finally came in and he righted the ship. And then people will say the same thing about Mike Vick. He didn't have a chance. He was raw. He had the wrong coaching. But the bottom line is this. The fans want to win. And so they make decisions about what players are good and what players are not good prematurely. And they're not willing to back off that decision. If they say Ridder's great, no, Ridder's great. I know he threw 8 touchdowns last week, but it was a play calling. Or Ridder's bad. I know he threw, 12 interceptions last week, but I believe in him. He just had a bad game. He leads the league in turnover. But stick with him. I just think we're emotionally attached because we want to win. Honestly, we do.
Yeah.
See that? Facts, man. I was here like early 2000s after Chris Chandler when we drafted Michael Vick. If you're in the city, back then we had the NFL blackouts. So on Sundays, home games, you didn't even know if the Falcons were coming on TV. But when Michael Vick started to play, that's when we were on TV every Sunday. So that type of emotional attachment, I had to let go of that for Michael Vick, man. But Michael Vick, what he did for the city, and then Matt Ryan, you can appreciate both. That's why I think two things, can be true. Michael Vick did something for the franchise. We know how it ended, and Matt Ryan. But we know you got one side that wants to be right by saying this player is going to be good, and one side knew that he was always going to be trash. So you're going to knock heads there. So somebody's going to be right at some point in time of the other career. So, yeah, you're always going to see that back and forth.
So it's pretty much ego. I mean, everybody – I don't care, man. I'm going to be honest with you. No matter what I say, my ego isn't bigger than my fandom for the team. If I'm wrong, I'll come on here and say, look, my bad. I was wrong, dude. He ended up working out. My ego isn't big enough, So if I'm wrong, I'll gladly come on here and be like, look, y'all, he proved me wrong, and nothing I can do about it. So, and then I think people don't understand. They get in the group and be like, well, I told y'all this, I told y'all that. Okay, if it works out for the best, it benefits all of us because we cheering for the same team. We all cheering for the Falcons and want the Falcons to do good. So it don't make sense for people to be like, oh, well, y'all wanted him to fail. Now look at you like, okay, I think we all want him. We want that person to prove us wrong. That's exactly what I want. If I don't believe in you, prove me wrong. You on my team. I want the team to be successful. When they do good, we do good.
Yeah. Right. Very well said. Very well said. And the last thing I want to touch on, y'all, before we get out of here is of course the trade deadline. Of course, we didn't make any real significant moves. Evidently, we were right there about to get Sweat, and the Bears stepped in and kind of Deshaun Watson, Cleveland Browns at the 12th hour.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
we was left at the altar by ourselves for once again. But what I want to speak on it and ask you guys. Honestly, y'all, I wasn't, and this is something that Bryce just mentioned not long ago. I really wasn't upset that we didn't do any like major trades because I really wanted to hold on to these draft picks, to be honest, because I'm looking at this team now, and hey, I'm gonna always tell it like I see it. This team could go anyway. You
Yep.
know, Falcons fan to the death for me, but this team could go anywhere. Anyway, this team with the quarterback situation we got going on now, we may win 4 games most. We could go win 4 games most for the rest of the season, or we could go on a run and end up with 11 or 12 wins. So it really could go either way. So what I'm trying to say when I say I wasn't upset is I didn't want us to match Chicago's offer because that means we'd have had to give up a first rounder. And at that point, I just felt like, that's way too rich for our blood. And we hadn't had a win a season in 5 years. We draft picks, especially high equity, high capital draft picks, that's gold to the Atlanta Falcons. We need every first, second round that we can get our hands on. And we don't need to give any away. Yeah, I know he's a great pass rush and all that, but I wasn't upset about it. And going back to the quarterback situation, who knows? Maybe they do decide to go get a quarterback in the draft next year. And we're going to need that first round pick if that's the case. And Chase Young, I know he went for a third rounder. And after the trade was made, there were some discussions that came out there saying that he was pretty much uncoachable. But that's just, my opinion. And I'm interested to see how you guys view us and what we did in the trade deadline this year.
I mean, I wasn't surprised because the Falcons don't really ever do anything big before the trade deadline, so it didn't bother me none. I do believe we do need a pass rusher. That does need to be addressed. Hopefully in the offseason it'll get addressed. But Chase Young, I believe, any kind of coaching issues, behavioral issues, y'all know Blank, he ain't going for it.
Yeah.
He ain't going for it. Behavior or coaching issues, he not trying to have it. So, and then with Sweat, I just think that the Chicago made the better offer apparently, and that's maybe where he wanted to be. So I understand. So we didn't give up anything. That's the best part, like you said, Toddy. We didn't give up anything. We still got all our picks. And we'll be okay. We can still build through free agency, and because we're gonna have a lot of money come this offseason. We already. Right now we got $12 million in cap space, and on top of what we're gonna have for next year. So, we just continue to build through the draft and build through free agency next year. And like you said, Tidy, this team this might be the most wins we could get this year, or we could go on a run depending on how Taylor Heinicke plays. So Terry, he kept his poker face. He said, okay, I'm gonna let y'all have that. He played it very well. And some people give Terry a little flack, but Terry doing it. He doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
He doing his job. So I'm gonna reserve any kind of critique for Terry until he does something, and we'd be like scratching our heads like, well, Terry, what you doing? So he played his poker face and he kept his hand. He didn't show his hand. So I commend him for that. He stood strong.
Mm-hmm. Right. Hey man, for me, but trade deadline, I wasn't too disappointed. Normally as humans, you like people that like you. So once I found out that Montez Sweat wanted to be in Atlanta just as much as we wanted him, and that connection started to grow. So I started to look to see, have we made that trade yet? Did they accept it? And then when the Bears did beat us out, it was a little bit disappointing that we didn't get Montez. But Montez may be on the market after this season if he doesn't sign an extension. There's already talks that he wants to see how things goes. He has his eye still on Atlanta, hopefully. Then you got Daniil Hunter. So you do got guys that will be available after this year with the money, we should be able to pick them up. And that may save us a draft pick. And, for the rest of the 9 games, what are we realistically expecting from Montez? Right. So I'm not sure if we're expecting too many sacks from him. So if we can sign him in the offseason and keep our draft pick to try to build this team out to get some more younger guys, I think that's the better way to go than trying to spend high and then the return on whatever your investment is. You're not going to see immediate return unless Montez just comes and starts balling out, which he hasn't been doing for much of the season this year. That's why they, pretty much got rid of him, fire sale. So Danielle Hunter's leading the league in sacks, and his name was in the trade early, but they didn't make him available. So yeah, I think it was good that we did wait. Kind of disappointed more about the Grady situation, the ACL, but I'm glad we kind of addressed the defensive tackle with a familiar guy for Ryan Nielsen. So I'm more happy that we did kind of replace Grady and we didn't have to replace a DN. I think we can finish with the guys we got.
Yeah, good point.
The trade deadline for me, I was expecting to see some moves. Maybe nothing really, really big, but more than what we got. And it's hard not to peek over into other people's franchises, and you see what teams who are committed to winning are doing. And I'm not saying we're not committed to winning, but if you look at what San Francisco did, and they already have a great defense, in my opinion, and what a few other teams did, it's like, well, what are we going to do? I go back and forth about whether or not we should draft or whether we should go the veteran route. I think our defense is much improved this year because of the veteran presence that we took advantage of during the offseason. Consistently, we have just been off on drafting defensive players. I know we haven't taken anybody at the top, but we haven't been able to, get anybody to rush the quarterback for a very long time. And the guys who are really stepping up, like Alfred, he was an undrafted free agent, So, part of me is like, yeah, it's too much draft capital to give up and go out there and try to get these players. But you have a better idea of who the player is once they've played a few years in the NFL and adjusted to the game. And so I would like to see us do more next time. I think we've done a great job already with our defense. But I wasn't as concerned because I still think we need to get the quarterback position right first before we go out there and continue to spend money. And we can't even put points on the board to win the game.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it, Steven.
Yeah, and I think too, like I said, the regimes kind of showed us they are big into value. That's why they do a lot of conditional. That's why they do a lot of 1 year. That's why they do a lot of guys who have talent, maybe just wasn't in the right situation. Because if it pays off here, then you got you a gem. Boom. Jeff Okudah, for example. They work out in Detroit. Now he's playing well. He's in line to get extension from this after the season. I mean, their biggest thing about them too, without making a trade too, is they have like decisions they got to make this offseason. They got to re-sign Terrell probably. You want to re-sign Okudah too. And then, you'll see what that money looks like.
Yeah.
But, you probably want to, if you want to make that trade, you want to keep all your capital so you can do that. Or you could continue just to draft and try to build from those positions. And like I said, through the regime, they've just done it that way. They are not just going to swing for the fence because I think at the end of the day, they do not want to put this team in the position they were at the end of the Dan Quinn era, where then you were screwed salary cap wise, and now it's hard for you to field a competitive product. So that's why they feel like this is the best way. I think that's why they went with Ridder as well. Everybody forgets Ridder basically costs you nothing.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that's
you can
true.
cut Ridder with no issue. Like the thing about it is, it's not like this is Daniel Jones, where you pay him and he sucks and you're screwed.
Right.
Because it affects how you actually can build your team. Ridder sucking does not actually affect how they can build the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that's why I wasn't too shocked they didn't make any crazy moves. Like I said, they are a team a staff that believes in familiarity. They want guys who, like I said, Van Jefferson's another example. They're hoping kind of, whatever in LA. Maybe he can do something here. If not, don't really cost you anything. A lot of low risk, high reward situations potentially, which it technically is smart. You can't say that's not smart. It just depends if you are a person who wants to be more aggressive or not. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that we didn't do anything crazy at the trade deadline. And they're just trying to save up for the offseason where they're going to try to continue to put pieces on the team, continue to complete the team. And then these contracts that they do give out, they're probably going to try to structure a certain way to be ready for Drake London's contract extension, Pitts, maybe even when you get to Bijan's. I mean, you just feel like pretty much you want to make sure that you got guys that you want to keep and that you can do it. You don't want to take yourself out of it now. And it's like, well, in a couple of years, we're going to lose these guys for sure.
Yeah. Well said. I know Terry spoke on that last year as well. But guys, man, this has been fantastic, man. This has been fantastic. I enjoyed it. I want to thank all you guys, coming through. Definitely a great show, great live. So once again, I want to thank everybody for coming through. And also, starting at the top with our money, man, if you just want to make sure that you let everybody know where they can find you at online.
Oh, yeah. So everybody, y'all can just find me in the Atlanta Bird Gang, man, on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm in the Bird Gang. I'm in there with Toddy and the guys. So making posts. I'll probably start getting out here and doing some more videos. So, hey, you can just find me there at Atlanta Bird Gang.
You can hit me on Twitter. I enjoyed this at Checkdowner. I'm also on the Atlanta Bird King. Appreciate it, Tidy. And coming soon, podcast, YouTube channel, The Checkdown.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Ty, for letting me come on again, talking some football with y'all, Falcons football. Y'all can follow me at Bryce_2K. My YouTube also Bryce_2K. I do the Believe in Hawks podcast for the Atlanta Hawks, covering their season. Got to win tonight. And then also Falcons content as well. So y'all follow me on all that. Subscribe, everything under the sun and everything. So.
Yeah, what's good, everybody? You can find me on YouTube, Shawn J, YouTube, Twitter, Shawn J, ATLNs, man. Appreciate you guys for having me on. This was dope. I like hearing all the different perspectives, man, because this is really what our community is about, man. Everybody has their own vision, perspective of what the team should be or shouldn't be. And it's dope to get it all in one space and, get to hear everybody's perspective on the team, man. So appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming, man. I appreciate everybody's time. And once again, I will be posting these gentlemen links in the comment section or in the description of this YouTube. So make sure to show them some love. Both of these gentlemen, Bryce, Shawn J, I mean, you talking about experts at breaking down film. They two of the best that do it for the Atlanta Falcons. So make sure to show them some love. Run up the likes, run up the comments, run up the subs. And once again, gentlemen, this was great. I want to thank y'all for y'all time. We got to do it again soon, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys.
And on that note, we out of here, y'all. Peace.
Have a good one.
Y'all have a good one. Take care.